Wonderful recognitions to be given. So before we can get started, we have our quorum, and that gets us to our Pledge of Allegiance. Usually we would have a student board member do that, but they are not here today. So I'm going to ask our proud new principal of Overton High School, Dr. Kelby Gardner, to please do our Pledge of Allegiance, or lead us off in that, please. Thank you. You can come here if you want to, so everybody can hear your beautiful voice.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. All right, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
As stands.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as listed, please raise your hand. That is everybody. Thank you so much. That gets us to the very exciting part that I think we're all here for, is the awards and recognitions. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Schools, Dr. Adrienne Battle.
Thank you so much, Chair Elrod, and good evening, board members. Before we start with our recognitions, I just want to note that this is Public Schools Week across the country. And I appreciate everyone who makes our Metro Nashville Public Schools shine every single week. We have a beautifully diverse district that reflects Nashville, and we have an amazing team of MNPS public servants who work hard every day to make sure every student is known. I will be forever grateful that I grew up attending these schools, came back to work in them, and now have the honor of leading the district. So thank you to our students, all of our teachers, principals, and other staff members, our parents, our community partners, and everyone else who works in and supports our public schools day in and day out. Let's give a round of applause to Public Education Week. So tonight, I'm excited to honor an exceptional educator and many outstanding student athletes with you. So let's just jump right in. Dr. Tina Atkinson has been teaching art at Percy Priest Elementary School for 26 years. She teaches every student in the school every week, which means 530 students in grades K through 5 are benefiting from her knowledge, wisdom, expertise, and energy. Dr. Atkinson encourages each student to make choices, to be confident, and enjoy the work of making art without worrying about what other people will think of the end result. And we're not the only ones who know how good Dr. Atkinson is at what she does. In January, the National Art Education Association named Dr. Atkinson the 2024 National Elementary Art Teacher of the Year and the 2024 Southeastern Regional Elementary Art Educator of the Year. Come on up, Dr. Atkinson. These are fitting honors for a first-rate teacher who has brought her skills and her leadership to her students for so many years. I will never forget at the beginning of my tenure, you jumping right in and supporting the work of our community engagement sessions across the city. So thank you so much for all you do for our wonderful students, and congratulations to you. We'd love for you to come up and take a photo. Wow, what an honor. So next we have a student athlete you may remember seeing here before because we honored him at this same meeting at the end of February last year. Last year, he won the state swimming championship in 2 events, and this year he did it again. But this year, it was even better. Spencer Nicholas, a senior at Martin Luther King Jr. Academic Magnet High School, set the state record and the national public school record in the 100-yard butterfly at the Tisca State Championship earlier this month. In fact, Spencer set the state record not once, but twice that weekend, breaking his own record in the final race. Now, Spencer knows I'm not done yet. Spencer also won the state championship in the 100 backstroke for the second year in a row. And now he is preparing for the U.S. Olympic team trials in June before heading to the University of Virginia in the fall. Spencer, congratulations once again on an outstanding state championship meet and a tremendous high school swimming career. And congratulations to your coaches and your family as well. Everyone, please stand to your feet and give him another round of applause as he comes up for a photo.
One, two. One, two.
All right, congratulations again, Spencer. Good luck at the trials and in the fall as you attend Virginia. Did I get that right? All right. Good luck to you. All right, so we also have another state champion as well as 9 other medalists from 6 different schools to honor from last weekend's TSSAA State Wrestling Championships. Students, as I call your names, please come on up to the podium and then we'll get a group photo at the end. Let's start with our 4 students from McGavick High School who medaled in several different weight classes in the boys and girls championships. First up, we have Emmanuel Claybrooks. Xavier Cox. La Mungale. And Mateus Volkart. Y'all stay up here. We'll hear more about McGavick in just a moment. I'll be back. Next, we have another 3 medalists. Y'all stay right there because we want to get a picture from another 3 high schools. And again, we have both boys and girls representing MNPS in these honors. First up, we have Rutland Harris from Hume Fogg. Come on up. We'd also like to congratulate LaCuria Kelly from Pearl Cone High School. And Cam Shields from James Lawson High School. Finally, we have 3 student athletes who finished in the top 3 in their respective weight classes. First up is Malik Bowling of East Nashville Magnet High School, who won 3rd place. And again, Malik won 3rd place in the boys' 285-pound class. Next up is a wrestler we've gotten used to seeing up here year after year, and that is Vivian. Vivian Mariscal, come on up. Vivian represents the John Overton High School. She won 2nd place in the girls' 100-pound class to collect her 3rd consecutive state medal and wrap up a brilliant high school wrestling career. Congratulations, Vivian. And finally, we have a new state champion, the winner of the girls' 132-pound class. Can I get a drum roll? It's Holly Cox from McGavick High School. She is a 2-time state medalist who won a thrilling victory in the championship match. It was so dominant that she gave up only 1 point the entire tournament. Congratulations on being the state champion. Let's give it up once again for all of these great wrestlers who represented MNPS.
All right, stand next to your brother.
I like to have to.
Next to your brother. But
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
I still have it up on my wall.
One, two, three.
okay.
Got it done. All right, and continuing with not only athletics, but academics, tonight we're celebrating 76 teams at 15 MNPS high schools that have won the 2023-24 Academic Achievement Awards from the TSSAA for the fall semester. Each of these teams had a collective GPA of at least 3.0 for the semester. That is an impressive testament to their hard work in and out of the classroom, their determination, and their excellent time management as they competed in high school basketball, bowling, cheerleading, cross country, football, golf, soccer, volleyball, and wrestling. I'm not going to say every team from every school, but I do want to recognize each of the high schools whose teams have earned these academic honors, and every high school that has an athletic program is represented here. All right, so I'm going to ask, when I call your schools' names, for the representatives here representing these schools to come to the front of the room, and then we'll come up and take a photo. Antioch High School had 5 teams recognized. Cane Ridge High School had 4 teams recognized. East Nashville had 2 teams recognized. Glencliff High School had 1 team recognized. Hillsboro, 11 teams recognized. Hume Fogg, 14 teams. Hunters Lane, 6 teams. James Lawson, 6 teams. Maplewood, 1 team. Martin Luther King Jr., 6 teams. McGavick, 2 teams. John Overton, 6 teams. Pearl Cone, 2 teams. Stratford, 2 teams. And Whites Creek High School, 8 teams. And the teams winning the awards include 2 boys basketball teams, 6 girls basketball teams, 5 boys bowling teams, 4 girls bowling teams, 4 cheerleading teams, 6 boys cross country teams, 8 girls cross country teams, 4 football teams, 7 boys golf teams, 5 girls golf teams, 8 girls soccer teams, 12 volleyball teams, 3 boys wrestling teams, and 2 girls wrestling teams. Let's give it up for all the high schools and their student athletes. I think everybody has a school representative. Why don't we stand back here?
Yeah, we'll stand back here. Y'all come back so we can.
Can y'all come back just a bit?
Fill it in.
Oh, pack it in.
Pack it in.
Some people can't even stand in front of it.
And board members, make sure you can see Michael Cass, as long as you can see him. You can't, just slide around. I found my spot.
Same spot, right?
Yeah, come on, why don't you come this way a little bit? Okay.
It's winning right there. Okay. 1, 2, 1.
All right, congratulations.
Oh, thank you for the paper. Can we shout out to King Lee? Nice gift.
I'm not, you might want to.
We'll see you all there in a minute.
We'll give them a minute.
Thank you so much to everyone for being here so we could celebrate with you. I also want to take a quick moment to say thank you to Mark North. Some people would like to say that there's more than one of him. It's almost like a clone. He's at so many things. So I appreciate it, and it's good to be here to celebrate with everybody. That gets us to our next part of the agenda, which is the director's report. I will again turn it over to our director of schools, Dr. Adrian Battle.
Thank you so much, Chair Rod. And I want to reiterate that a huge thank you to all the school teams and families who support our student athletes and our educators, specifically Mark North, who serves as our high school athletic director, but also Penny Howard, who is our athletic director for elementary and for our middle school. So kudos to them for their leadership. Right. Again, thank you, Chair Rod and board members. In a few moments, I'll be bringing up Dr. David Williams and Dr. Tina Stinson to give an overview of where we are with assessment data at this point in the school year. But I first want to acknowledge some news that came out since our last meeting from the Tennessee Department of Education. So, for the second year in a row, we got music. That surprised me. Metro Nashville Public Schools has earned an advancing designation by the Tennessee Department of Education, which is the second highest available to school districts in the state of Tennessee. So, round of applause. Congratulations to the entire team MNPS. One note here before I move on, Metro Nashville Public Schools is the only large school district to achieve this and one of only two among our surrounding counties to earn this designation. It means that we've seen what we've seen through other data points. We continue to make strong improvements in growth and academic outcomes for our students compared to other school districts in the state of Tennessee and beyond. I would also like to congratulate all of those schools who earned reward school status this year based on their 22-23 TCAP results. These schools represent showing either top performance in growth or overall achievement. You can see all of those schools listed here, but I particularly want to shout out Tom Joy Elementary and Ida B. Wells Elementary Schools, which have gone from priority to reward in the same year. This is an incredible achievement that doesn't happen often, and it couldn't be done without the hard work of the students, teachers, staff, parents, and community partners, along with support from district teams and this Board of Education. So congratulations to everyone, to all of the schools that are listed here, and we look forward to greater things to come. Now, before I turn it over for our assessment update, I wanted to ground the conversation. Throughout the last few years, we've seen improvements across all student groups. We are keenly aware of the continued acceleration journey we are on to advance all student groups as we move forward. We're coming off of the second year of being named a Level 5 school district in TVOS growth, the second year designated as an advancing district, and we outpaced the state last year in nearly all major TCAP categories. The screening and benchmark assessments serve to inform teachers, school leadership, and district leadership about the progress of individual student schools and the district as a whole. They are a basis of our focused outcomes, which are meant to progress monitor. We just had this conversation, right? Progress monitor ourselves outside of the traditional TCAP testing results, which influence accountability metrics for state and federal officials. Let's make one thing perfectly clear. The most stringent accountability for meeting our students' needs starts with us. We've crafted specific goals to proactively address these needs, taken initiative to refine and enhance our strategies continuously, rather than solely relying on external assessments or evaluations. Despite the widespread disparities in educational achievement nationwide, influenced by broader societal issues beyond our immediate influence, we actively engage in initiatives within our reach. Through the implementation of effective systems, robust frameworks, and ongoing mentorship and evaluations, we're dedicated to advancing our educational practices, ensuring every student receives the recognition and support they deserve. Myself and my leadership team, in addition to the support network of executive directors and district experts, meet regularly with schools to go over their data, identify areas of improvement, celebrate the successes, and ensure that we as a support hub are providing the necessary resources for success. So with that, I am going to invite up Dr. Tina Stinson. I will turn it over to her for her to kick off the presentation and go through where we are with our most recent assessments.
Thank you, Dr. Battle, Chair Elrod, and board members. Here is our assessment update, much like what we did in the fall. These will look familiar to you. Before starting, as always, we want to ground ourselves in the district's core tenets, the focused outcomes, and the signature initiatives. Particularly among our focused outcomes, literacy and numeracy are relevant to this discussion. Before we get into the data, we wanted to talk a little bit about the types of district assessments that we have, as Dr. Battle mentioned, in the interim to mark progress, see where we need to dive in, at the student level, school level, and district level. First, we have our screeners. Those are skills-based. You see a couple of examples on here. And these are meant to help us know where additional supports are needed, specifically at that student level. These include things like early reading, CBM math, et cetera. Part of the screening process are A reading and math, A math, on the next bullet, number 2. But these are really meant to gauge both skill gaps and monitor growth through the year. They're based on sort of universal reading and math standards. And that's one of the things we'll be talking about tonight. And these are meant to let us know through the year how we are doing. Finally, achievement measures, standards-based again, such as our benchmark, let us know, are we getting there? Dr. Williams will be talking about these tonight, but these are grade level standards that are assessed just in line with the scope and sequence. So what we'll be talking about tonight, basically second quarter benchmark assessments. So with that introduction, I want to talk about the screening assessment results. The MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support winter assessment window, was in January. It was extended a week due to our snow week and freeze week through February 2nd. We had almost 38,000 students in grades 2 through 9 attempt these assessments. They are nationally normed from 2019 in reading and math. And we had a very high participation rate at 97.3%. District math scores, as you will see as I go through the slides, were higher than our reading scores in grades 2 through 9. When compared to results from fall of 2023, the percentage of students in the lowest 2 national quintiles increased in reading, but decreased slightly for math. Again, I will be going over these data more specifically. The good news is that the district is on track for meeting our growth goals. Our focused outcome is having 50% or more of our students meet or exceed their fall percentile in A reading and A math. That's from fall to spring. We're looking at the winter tonight. So that tells us whether we're on track to that spring number. And every student group met winter growth targets for math And for reading, Hispanic, Pacific Islander, students with disabilities, and limited English proficient groups also met these goals, as well as all. We wanted to give some context. This was a rough screening window because we did have to close, meaning schools were pressed for time due to the inclement weather. It was originally scheduled to close on the 26th, but we extended the window. After noticing some inconsistencies in patterns of data, the RAE team has been in communication with the Illuminate team, as has Dr. Williams. And we did learn that minor adjustments to the reading screener could potentially have detrimentally affected some metrics. It shouldn't be too much, but we wanted to know, was there any differences from prior screenings to this screenings and this screening? And there were, in that students could not see test items and reading passages that they could have been exposed to more than one time before. It shouldn't have a big effect, but it can have an effect. And it also probably means they're testing new items. I don't know that for sure. That's a supposition. As you will see, several large outliers at the school level had an effect on our district averages. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I go through the data. So here are our FastBridge A reading quintiles from fall in gold and blue for winter. If you remember, and I know I've mentioned this before, but not everybody lives in this world, so I'm going to mention it again. Quintiles are basically at the national level, in this case, taking our students' scores and putting them into 20% chunks, right? So the national average for any given quintile would be 20%. And these norms were developed in 2019 for context. The lowest quintile, which means the bottom 20%, increased slightly for reading from fall to winter. It did not in the next highest quintile. And you will also see a very slight decrease in our Q4, quintile 4 and Q5 scores as compared to the fall. Next, we're going to shift into A reading achievement by student group. Again, you've seen these slides or this type of slide before, but the median national percentile is 50, meaning in 2019, when they normed this, 50% of the students scored below this and 50% scored above this. So the median national percentile in 2019 was 50. You can see that our all student score is a 23. That is down from 26 in the fall. And this is one of the reasons I reached out to the Illuminate team to see if there was anything different. And I am still working to understand the data. I will say that we noticed, and Illuminate did confirm this, that we saw a lot of loss from our highest achieving schools for a variety of reasons that we suspect had to do with the weather, but we're still digging into the reasons, and also knowing that there's a slight difference in the way the test is presented to students. Again, I mentioned at the beginning, some of our student groups held their own, such as our Black, our limited English proficient students on this metric from fall. Now we're going to look at growth by the student group. Again, this is related to our focused outcome, which is the percentage of students maintaining or improving their percentile from fall to spring is our focused outcome, winter is our like interim focused outcome. And you can see that we did meet this outcome. We have exactly 50% of students maintaining or improving their percentile from fall to winter. I'm not going to go through every student group on this slide, but a couple stand out, like our Hispanic student population had a really good rate, as did our LEP. That is nothing, I mean, that is really good news for us because, again, these are part of our screening package and are given without accommodations, right? So students who may be limited English proficient, which includes students transitioning out of EL service, but the EL portion of this group are not receiving any accommodations so that we can tell where they are and what sort of supports they need. Now I'm going to move to math, and you'll notice that the patterns are a little different than they were for reading. In this case, you can see that the first quintile, again, that bottom 25%, while it increased by a minuscule amount, if you look at the student group from quintile 2, it decreased. So between those two bottom quintiles, we actually experienced a decrease, which is how we want to go. We did increase in quintile 4, that's like that 60 to 80%, and decreased a little on the highest. The math achievement by student group, again, in median national percentiles, and the reason we use the median instead of the mean is that you cannot average a percentile. So you look at the half and the half, actually remained completely stable from fall for math at 28. You can see that there are some gaps, but none of the gaps have increased. They've all maintained or improved. And in even better news is that the winter A-math growth by student group, not only did all students hit it, every student group hit this interim focused outcome, which again is the percentage of students maintaining or improving their percentile from fall to winter. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. David Williams to talk about benchmarks.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. Good evening, board. Dr. Battle. Yep. Tonight, I'll be providing the board with an update on our most recent benchmark administration, which took place at the end of Q2, just before winter break. And I will be specifically looking at high-level trends from Grade 3 English Language Arts, or ELA, Grade 7 Math, Integrated Math 1, and English 2. In Grade 3, students were demonstrating success making meaning of a word or phrase using sentence-level context as a clue. We also saw success for students determining the meaning of word or phrases, distinguishing literal from non-literal language. Students did struggle to respond to non-traditional item types and also finding the main idea of a text or identifying key details in support of that main idea. In Grade 7, Math, students were successful responding to cognitively complex items identified as analysis or application type questions in Web Depth of Knowledge Level 3. They also demonstrated understanding that subtraction of rational numbers is the same as adding the additive inverse, and that the distance between two rational numbers on a number line is the absolute value of their difference. Students did struggle with more of the complicated technology-enhanced items, specifically drag and drop or matching. And they also struggled to convert rational numbers to a decimal using long division, everyone's favorite. And then also knowing that the decimal form of a rational number will terminate or eventually settle into a repeating pattern. In Integrated Math 1, students performed better on non-calculator items than they did when compared to calculator items. And this is important because it shows that they're not overly reliant on a calculator to do the thinking for them. Students were also able to create equations and inequalities as needed and use them to solve problems, which is really an important critical skill for first-year high school math students. Students struggled to connect the domain of a written function to its graph and the quantitative relationship it defines. Similarly, interpreting key features of a graph and tables with a sketch given a description of the relationship between the quantities. In English 2, students were successful in both, again, Web's Depth of Knowledge Level 3, as well as multiple choice questions. Students were also successful demonstrating knowledge of conventional grammar, using parallel structure in various ways to convey meaning. Students did, however, struggle to respond to, again, more of those sophisticated TEI items, specifically drag and drop, and what's called evidence-based selected response questions, where they're typically multi-part, and getting the point credit for part 2 depends on getting part 1 correct also. Some of the challenges that we saw, again, analyzing what a text says explicitly and then drawing inferences and then citing the most compelling evidence in support of those conclusions or inferences. So in summary, students, again, we are seeing this pattern that they need to continue to practice with non-traditional item types. And again, that's not a surprise because more complicated answer types or question types do require students to have a little more sophisticated cognitive complexity and responding to their questions. We also see across the grade levels, I know I only gave highlights here this evening, but student success on ELA does vary by passage and passage type. In mathematics, we are seeing students demonstrating sophisticated mathematical understandings. And also I want to point out the reason that I'm able to share trends across things like ELA passages, question types, content of the grade level standards, difficulty level, et cetera, is because everyone in Metro Public Schools has high visibility into these assessments. Teachers, staff, leaders, support hub members all have high visibility into these assessments. So we can see the items, we can see the data, we can actually see how students respond, what answers did they choose to every single question and item that they take. And I think this visibility and transparency is critical. So schools have full access to these assessments, their student performance data, as well as analysis protocols to help make meaning of the data and move students forward. And finally, our students are learning amazing things. So when I talk about some of the more sophisticated things that they're learning, I think it's important to point out because Tennessee does have some of the most rigorous standards in the nation. So just want to take a moment and acknowledge 4 schools. A few weeks ago, Larry Miles and I, he's the data coach coordinator, co-presented a session at the MTSS network meetings on specifically benchmark analysis, understanding the data, how it's computed, what it means, how to best be leveraged. And then we shared some protocols, and these 4 schools stepped up and shared the great work they're doing in their schools, taking the benchmark data, analyzing it, using it in their planning time with their ILT team to make sense of it and move the learning forward. So I just wanted to shout out Neely's Bend Elementary, Maxwell Elementary, JFK Middle, Cane Ridge High. They just added such a strong value to those sessions. And actually, when we got the feedback, that was everyone's favorite part, was hearing how other schools are doing. So our next steps, again, as Dr. Stinson mentioned, we do want to take a closer look at some of the literacy scores, and we're challenging our schools and our school supervisors, our EDs, to continue with a stronger focus on skills-based instruction and understanding how we can best leverage additional learning time during that PLT. We do have practice tests available ahead of quarter 3. That window actually opens tomorrow. Quarter 3 benchmark window opens tomorrow. Practice tests were made available on Monday. We do also have bell ringer items in our Schoology group that teachers can access to leverage that are, again, designed to mimic TCAP in some ways so they can practice these different item types. As we've mentioned before, benchmark predictions and FastBridge data, the A reading and A math data that Dr. Stinson talked about, are available in the parent portal and campus. As I've mentioned, schools have a whole lot of data to make meaning of, from the benchmark for both A reading and A math, as well as all of the other skills-based screeners that are part of our screening process. They're available in our data warehouse, our dashboard on the Illuminate site, and coming up in another Power BI dashboard. And as we make these predictive claims from our benchmarks out to TCAP, we want to continue to analyze that data, looking at past TCAP performance, our current benchmark projections, as well as how they stand up when we have our TCAP coming up in the spring. So how can the board continue to support our use and our district's use of a comprehensive assessment suite that Dr. Stinson mentioned earlier, with a robust skills screening process that includes both skills and adaptive measures, as well as a standards-based achievement measure in our benchmarks. continue to be a champion for the amazing work that our teachers and our schools and principals and communities are doing as they leverage these systems to support our students. And then finally, continue as best we can to advocate for transparency in our accountability systems utilized by our state. And with that, Dr. Battle, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. Chair Rod, I will turn the mic over to you.
Thank you so much. If my colleagues will allow me, I'm going to ask a question first, since I'm starting to lose my voice. I can kind of feel it starting to dwindle before I ask y'all, but I promise I will ask y'all for your questions. I have noticed there's some overlap from some of the analysis from last year and from past conversations, particularly like in as an example, in grade 3 ELA, which is slide 16, under challenges, it says responding to non-traditional item types. I know that's been something we've talked about before. Can y'all share, I understand that challenge is not going to be able to be quickly remedied, but what are we currently doing to try to remedy that? And what are kind of our projections for that? And are there any other, in case I've not mentioned them, are there any others that are kind of just ongoing challenges that we need to keep prioritizing?
Dr. Williams.
Yeah, no, great question. It's something that we're keeping an eye on. And when I do the district level analysis, for example, in preparation for tonight's meeting, I'm looking at where students were least successful, most successful, and there's just a range because I'm looking at item types, patches types, web's depth of knowledge, standards, all of the information that I have to look into what we're doing. And of course, I'm sharing high-level trends. As I mentioned in the presentation, I do think looking at non-traditional item types, they always will offer an additional layer of cognitive complexity for kids. So it's one thing to understand the content that I'm being assessed and then also how to respond the way the question is asking. So it is an additional layer of cognitive complexity and challenge for our students. When we look at TCAP, it is a very small portion. For grade 3 through 5, they're still on paper pencil. The preponderance of questions will be multiple choice. The other non-traditional item type for grade 3, 4, and 5 is what we call multi-select. So it will say, which of the two following statements reflect literal language from the text? So there are two correct choices, and they have to get both correct, and only those two correct to get that score point. So it is something we're keeping an eye on. That's why we do have the practice tests available. We do recommend teachers can pull those up in their classroom, spend a few minutes walking through because they're intended to demonstrate the different item types. Here's a few multiple choice questions. Here's a few multi-select questions. Let's answer those together, or you try them on their own and we'll go through them together. So those are available. As I mentioned, we also do have those bell ringers that teachers can join the Schoology group, and they can see, again, a bunch of items that we've pulled out to reflect the standard, so they can triangulate it with the data that they've seen, as well as looking at the item types their students need additional support in.
Add one thing, Dr. Stinson just reminded me that the third grade retake assessment that happens as part of the new law is administered 100% online. And so what Dr. Williams said, the traditional TCAP is paper and pencil. The retake will be administered online after right near the end of the year this year. That window just came out.
Thank you. Abigail, I'll let you go first. Anybody else?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that really stuck out to me was when Ms. Stinson said that we had a lot of our loss in our highest achieving schools. Did you mean that not just you meant the highest achieving schools were the ones that we saw the most losses in? That's concerning. Do we see specific trends within the data that can carry across those schools that we can pinpoint why those particular schools would have more losses than others? What are we doing? What's happening there?
I'll let Dr. Stinson add to this if she would like, as far as trends in the data themselves. But to really get to the heart of that question, it's the intense data dives that you saw in the next step. So my executive directors had this data literally days after the window closed. So we're referring to our screening data when we say that our highest achieving schools, and I don't know that I'd say had more loss. I think they did not meet their growth goals to the degree we would want them to. So more students did not meet their growth goal or maintain that percentile, right? And so that answer really lies as far as trends as to why is distinct at each level. So to drive home what both both Dr. Stinson and Dr. Williams said, is the power in these assessments happen. The majority of the powers at that school level, and my executive directors have been there. So we sort our dashboard specifically by the distance away from that growth goal. And for about 2 weeks now, my executive directors have been in each of those schools as part of those intense data dives to dig to the school level to see. In some places, that's where you heard the anecdotal data of, in particular, an adaptive screener takes longer the more high achieving you are, because the test gets harder and more rigorous. And that window when we missed for snow and condensed it to try to cram the same amount of testing into a smaller window, it creates different problems, especially for a high achieving population when an adaptive test takes longer. And so I'm not saying that is what happened everywhere. I'm saying that anecdotally that has come up in several spots, as well as some other pieces of just balancing now that we have a more comprehensive and robust system, balancing a standards-based assessment system as well as a skills-based assessment system, which we haven't always had to do in the past. And so having to really balance both aspects of that instruction in really rigorous ways can tend to lead to overcorrections in one way or the other.
Well, do we know if the schools that made the most losses tested before or after that winter weather?
The vast
we were
majority
out.
of schools began testing to some degree before, but the vast majority of schools wait till later in the window to begin their testing. And so without having a breakdown by school for you right now, I would feel confident in saying the overwhelming majority of our schools probably did the bulk of the testing after the window, given that the window was only open for about 6 school days, if I'm doing the math right, after we come back from the break. And our kids came back, I think, on the 9th. The 8th or the 9th, and the 15th was MLK Day, and then the 16th through the 22nd we were closed. So I'm gonna the majority of the testing would have happened after that.
Yeah. I know how hard it is to show growth when you're already close to the top. I know that is one of the most difficult things that you can do. And I know that, I've shared concerns with you about sometimes our curriculum doesn't necessarily meet the needs of our highest learners in a way that pushes them. And I would love to see some brainstorming and some thoughts from you guys and your team around what are we doing to meet the needs of those highest learners? How are we pushing them in a way that meets their needs, especially during that PLT time? I know that we've talked a lot about being able to pull people in small groups and read, and I'm hopeful to see more of that so that they get more individualized instruction.
Yeah, and I'll just share, this is more of an outlier situation. Traditionally, we haven't seen this dip in growth
Yeah,
for our highest achieving students, which led us to dig into very specific school examples. And we've learned some things that may have impacted that, like the timing needed for the adaptive testing. So we feel really good about the plan that's in place, understanding now just the guidance we need to provide when we're facing a more condensed window.
Okay. All right, that's helpful, yeah. I'm glad to see that we're meeting our growth goals. I'm glad to see that that's happening, especially in math. I'm glad to see that all students are meeting our growth goals, but I just want to make sure that sometimes the focus has necessarily had to be on our students that have the most to make up, because you have to throw everything you can at those students to help them get where they need to be. I just want to make sure we don't overbalance and create a situation where we're not pushing everybody as far as we can. And I know how difficult that is. But it is something that we need to make sure that is always in our minds.
Aaron. So I went back and was looking at last year. I looked at other numbers too. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit and ask you to talk about it a little bit. But in part because we had just in evaluation, the director evaluation meeting talked about fall to fall numbers on A reading and A math. And so when I looked at this, it looks like actually certainly when you look at quintiles in A reading and A math from last year to this year, the distributions don't look that different, and in some cases actually look kind of better this year than they did last year. But the growth goals in reading do look different. The meeting of the growth goals in reading is lower, as you all talked about, but not that much lower in math. And math is at the same level now as it was in fall. Reading not at the same level now as it was in fall on growth. So first of all, Dr. Stinson, did I say most of that correctly? And if if all that's true, what at first to me looked like something I should be like decently concerned about is actually now something where I'm like, okay, especially with the explanation that you all have offered around some of the issues around high achieving, which could affect the growth percentiles pretty significantly. I'm a little bit like, my takeaway is a little bit, let's not take the foot off of any gas, not that we ever would. Let's push a little harder in the places where we need to be pushing a little harder. I sort of want to know if I'm missing something in that interpretation, and if there's anything from this year, from last year, either sort of in assessment type or question type or anything like that on A reading and A math, to this year, sort of like Rachel Ann asked about with the benchmarks. I'm wondering about the same question, but with the A reading and A math. Like, are there particular things we're continuing to struggle on from last year to this year? So sorry, that's my real question, is like sort of last year to this year. Can you give me any comparison points that would lead me to wonder which things should we be concerned about?
Well, as Chief Bellamy is coming, I think the point that Tina made when you're looking at the growth goals that we have year after year, right? Because depending on where a student is, that adjusts year after year. So the fact that we have met both math and reading, so, right, but we want to, it is our goal to get as far away from that 50% mark as possible. We want to exceed that goal, and we've seen how that's translated in outcomes for our students in both benchmark and then with TCAP. So, I mean, to your point, like, we've got to continue to double down. We've got to continue to progress monitor. We have to continue to support our instructional leadership teams and our teachers around how to leverage this information, right, to get at both the skill and standards level for our students, given the suite of assessments we've talked about tonight, so that we can both maintain and then continue to accelerate with the suite of assessments. I'm not even going to just talk about one, but keep it in mind that we are also looking at some adaptive assessments. We're also looking at some assessments where students don't get their typical accommodation, so on and so forth. So this information is to be leveraged by our school teams to inform practice, right, immediately once we are empowered with where every student is. We're looking at this at a district level. A school team gets to look at this at an individual student level, which is even more impactful. Dr. Bellamy.
I honestly can't say it any better than Dr. Battle just did. We have many schools that were well above their goal. And we're digging in at every school for every kid that wasn't above their goal, right? So the power of this is happening at the school level. So I would be really hesitant to give you trends when it comes to FastBridge data, because it wouldn't apply to the schools in which that we're going in and doing these intense data dives, right? We're using this data to place kids in tiered interventions. We're using this data to make judgments about tier 1 instruction, just like we are with our benchmark assessments. And at the end of the day, if this is our GPS on a long car trip, we're on the way to make our trip in time. We are hitting our goals, and we're going to adapt to the things that we're not. I think Dr. Battle said it incredibly well, and I think you summarized a lot of what I heard Dr. Stinson say. So there are some things that you see in the data that alarming is not the word I'd use, but demand a response and an urgent response. That's true when I presented to you last year, or when they presented to you last year, and we were above both those goals. There were schools that demanded an urgent response, and there always will be. And so that's why I'm proud to have an assessment suite that we do. Because long before we presented this to you, that response has been well underway in every one of our schools, even the ones that were well above their goals and the ones that were below. So,
I really want to have more questions, but you guys, that's good responses, so kudos.
I think it goes to, I think the team has said it best with our executive directors, our instructional leadership team, our coaches. Like, we have created a structure by which we engage in continuous improvement. And so we're not waiting. Dr. Bellamy shared as we're visiting schools, this is what we're talking about. And in fact, we've spent hours ourselves in our cabinet digging into the data. I think Tina and David have only like shared this 20 times already to make sure that we are being as responsive as possible. So I just think that speaks to kind of the feeling you're having, Ms. Block, is that we have a sense of urgency so we don't wait. But we also are holding ourselves accountable as a support hub and getting the supports to the schools where they're closest to our students who need our urgent response.
Any more questions?
Can I just say one more thing? Sorry. I am really encouraged by I think it was reading where we saw limited English proficient students having sort of a great level of growth, right? So that's without accommodation, that's a pretty important thing, and maybe might be. I mean, wouldn't want to say it in an early way with only one data point, but with multiple data points there, if that's true, the multilingual interventions that you all are doing would seem to be. What did you say? If it's a GPS, we're on the right road? On schedule to make it there on time. Thanks.
Dr. Nabar McKinney?
So I'm gonna try, but I can't breathe, y'all, so excuse me if I stop. I'll try to get it out. If not, I will try later. So just a couple of questions real quick related to data that parents receive on their child's FastBridge data. Looking at the data that parents receive, is there a way to also provide examples of what this looks like? So for instance, when you talked about the non-traditional text that students have to infer on, is there a way to provide examples for parents to kind of look at that and be able to support students outside of school? I know we have the Scholars Portfolio to help students within the system, but if parents want to help outside the school, is there a way to send home data that will help support that initiative?
So I think the first question was about the data that's available in the family portal for A reading and A math. Was that the question? Yeah, and I think, Dr. Stinson, that's just their national percentile score that they have from those two measures, A reading and A math. The second question was about supports that are available at home. Am I following? I just want to make sure we're following correctly.
Yes, so students also receive a family report.
For the FastBridge data or the benchmark for the
Is
family?
it FastBridge data? It's for the FastBridge data.
Right.
But in that data, it doesn't necessarily provide examples of what those overarching goals or skills that students need to meet. So if a parent is looking at that data and says, okay, what can I look at in the work that they bring home or things that they're reading to be able to better support homework help or support, is there a way to provide examples for parents so that they can visualize and understand it better?
Yes, thank you for that clarification. So there is what's called a FAST family report that's available. We do send that home to all K-3 students 3 times a year. That's part of compliance with the retention law. That same report is available to other grade levels. It's just not required that we send it home. But we do think that's a good resource to bring up in, for example, parent conferences. It's also something that schools have access to that they could go ahead and send home with things like progress reports and report cards as needed. Parents can certainly request that information. There is also other more specific, that just gives an overview of the different measures and where the student is scoring based on the national norms. There is also more granular information that is available for families to request or teachers to share based on a student's score on each of these tests and each of these measures, what those scores mean in context of that specific skill. And so it will give you sort of recommendations these are the next things that can be developed at home, supported at home. And what's nice about the FastBridge suite is it gives those recommendations at the whole class level, at a small group level, and an individual student level. So teachers have lots of guidance on how I should move my class forward as a whole based on trends that the system has analyzed to see, as well as small group recommendations for interventions, progress monitoring, and then, as I say, very specific individualized reports that are available. Those aren't necessarily something that we send home, but we can, and parents can certainly request those, and they're available to talk through with your teachers. There's a great deal of information there.
Perfect. I'm going to stop there because I can't. But I'll follow up with Dr. Battle for
Please
some
do.
additional
Yes, ma'am.
questions. Thank you.
You do also, parents do have access in the parent portal to both the national percentile and the met or exceeded expectations qualifications,
Right,
right?
and that would be from the benchmark. So,
From the-
yeah, just to clarify, we're talking about fast bridge.
And fast too, you can see,
The fast bridge
Yep.
is the A reading and the A math.
right?
And then the benchmark is the predicted performance score,
Right.
whether it's below or approaching.
And you can look at past year results as well, so you can look at whether or not your own child is sort of, moving in different directions over time.
Yes, miss.
Dr. Gentry?
So I just have a tangential question. So, Dr. Bellamy, you kind of dropped a soft little bomb that the way that the third graders will be taking the tests that have already been identified as potential for retention will be different. So how are we sort of supporting them that I took a written test and now you're going to see if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with an online version of that test. So we know that from scientifically speaking, you're changing conditions that's going to have an impact. So how are we helping students to make that adjustment ahead of time?
Our benchmarks are delivered via laptops through technology. So our benchmark process, our third graders engage in throughout the year, is certainly preparing them for what they'll see on the online. As we prepare for TN Ready, we make sure our schools are equipped with either the practice test the state provides or other written ways. The research is pretty clear that practicing one time in writing for a standardized test is really about all you need. You get more bang for your buck after the first time and not so much after the second time. So we really want to focus on making sure our kids know what that experience is going to be like during TN Ready, but not creating any more stress than some laws may have already created for our third graders. And that would be true for third, fourth, and fifth. We want to make sure that they see the test in a written format, they have the strategies they need, and they get their weekly performance tasks that way. So there's ample opportunity throughout the year to practice in paper and pencil just like you would in TN Ready. As far as the retake, that will only be for students who scored below or who scored approaching. Who want to, whose parents would like to afford the opportunity, and we certainly suggest that they do, because if they score proficient on that retake, then they do not necessarily have to attend Promising Scholars, although we would encourage them to, and they still can. They also would not have to engage in tutoring for the remainder of their fourth grade year or be subject to the current fourth grade retention law. So that's why we would encourage them to take that third grade retake. That will be administered through the state online platform, which we would hope our benchmark process would have more than equipped them for.
Okay. I just want us to say that out loud,
Perfect.
because when a parent knows that it was a written test that got them where they were, we want to make sure that they understand that translation and that we understand that translation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? Ms. Tyler?
Yeah, sorry. I struggle with this sometimes because I feel like I just want to make sure we're not swinging too hard into teaching to the test. Can you help me not feel that way? I mean, what can we do to show that we're pushing them forward without just trying to make sure they can take this test better, but that we're actually pushing them forward learning wise?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is the conversation we have frequently. I mean, this suite of assessments provides us information on how to respond immediately to where students are to give them what they need and what they deserve. It's like, yes, accountability is there. And so we want to make sure that what we're teaching, what students are engaging in through the learning process is aligned to what they should be learning. But this is also why we foundationally take an approach around our SEL academic integration, right? Because we want the total, full, comprehensive development of our students from pre-K through 12th grade. So these are conversations we have. We focus, if you've heard our continuous improvement mindset, know where you are, but don't stay there. I mean, the whole point is that we want each of our students to grow, and through that growth, we know we will see ultimately achievement. And so rest assured there's a balanced approach. This is also why we have a suite of assessments, that we're not making a decision on one singular data point around what our students need. We're using suites of assessments, quantitative, qualitative data to inform PLT and MTSS, making sure that our Tier 1 instruction is where it is and where our students deserve. And quite frankly, we want to foster a joy of learning with our students. But I'll turn it to the team to see if there's anything in addition you would like to add.
I think the only other thing I'd add, Dr. Battle, is that because of the robust nature of the suite, we are presenting on more tests than we used to present on, but comparatively speaking, there's a very similar amount or sometimes even less testing time than there was when we were just with NWEA MAP. And in a presentation a couple of years ago, as we were making the switch, we laid that out. And that was important to the team as they looked at any kind of switch that might be, because we also do not want to create conditions such that schools become about that and not about the joy of learning and the process of learning. And so I will just say that overall, we have not increased testing time that way, but we have increased the amount of data that we can report on and across different categories. So I can understand where it certainly may seem like we have more than we used to.
Yeah, no, my concern is not that we're testing more. My concern is that we're not teaching to the test, and that we are actually meeting students' needs of learning and fostering the joy of learning and wanting to pick up a book and read just because it looks fun. Not because I have to do it so that I can understand this concept to take this test. I don't feel like we are testing more. I know that. I remember the presentation between the difference between MAP and FastBridge. I appreciate that. I was very supportive of the switch. My concern is that we just don't swing too hard towards, well, now we're taking another practice test. Now we're going to do another practice discussion about how this works. Now we're going to spend more teaching time practicing how to do this. And we have such limited time as it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is really just about empowering and equipping our educators with what they need to know about each student as we set the goals that are before them. But the last thing, and I mean, I've been at this for quite some time. The strategy has never been teach to the test, right? That has never been the strategy. This has really been about the core of what we want the experiences to be for our students. We've talked about our GPA experiences, the guaranteed experiences at elementary school, personalized at middle school, and applied experiences at high school. So as students matriculate throughout the system, it's really about the joy of that learning and then how to apply that learning into real world experiences in alignment to your aspirations.
And so I'll just add to
Dr.
that.
Gentry?
Sorry. I'll add to that. And Ms. Tyler, you're not alone. It was like literally when you call out certain things on a test where a student wasn't, right? So I think that when I think about the bigger picture, right? So step back, because sometimes we can get sucked into sort of a single topic or a single aspect, right? So we think about holistically our entire framework, how we're using data generally. This is just another data point, right? So we use data all the time. We look at the every student known, the dashboard allows me to understand where I need to emphasize across the board, even in my day-to-day teaching. So we'll set this test aside for a second. So what I would take from this is that, even though that was the first thing that popped into my mind, what I would take from that and try to make sure that we can help reiterate that to parents is that as a teacher now, if I know that there's a concept that students aren't getting, right? How do I reinforce that concept as I keep progressing through the curriculum that's in front of me? That was the first thing. But I think the other question you raised about how do we push students further and how do we continue to engage and how do we continue to raise the bar for those students who are able to do more? I think all of those things combined get you away from the teaching to the test thing. So I see where that, definitely can see where that popped up, but I feel comfortable in that we've become more data-driven across the board, that this is just a data point. It's not the data point that we're trying to nail down.
Yeah, and just to say, I'm so sorry, I have to scoot out. I have a family need. I must leave, and I apologize. This has nothing to do with missing things, and I'm going to be watching the rest of this tomorrow when it comes up on YouTube. So sorry to leave.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, we will move on to public participation. The board will hear from those persons.
Thank you, Dr. Bellamy,
sorry.
Dr. Simpson, and Dr. Williams.
Thank you, team. I really appreciate your work. Obviously, I don't chair very often, or I didn't start the meeting off, so I'm a little off. Okay. Chair Earlwide obviously was not feeling well, so she has gone home to take care of her health. Now, to public participation, the board will now hear from those persons who requested to appear at this board meeting in the interest of time. The speakers are requested to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Comments will be timed. Dr. Severe will ring the bell. At the end of your speaking time, you have signed up to speak on particular subjects. We ask that the remarks will be spoken in the majority of the topic you signed up for. All right, we will begin with Ms. Katrina Endicott. If I mispronounce your name, please correct me.
Katina Ednicott. My name is Katina Ednicott, and I live in District 9. My children have been in metro school since kindergarten. I'm opposed to the plan to phase out 7th and 8th grade from MLK because it is an academic need for so many students. Middle school is challenging in the best of situations. My student came to MLK Middle School in 7th grade without knowing anyone. He got his spot through the lottery and came from his zoned school. He was coming in without a friend base. He was coming from making an easy A without really trying to an academic magnet expectation. And after the first week, he said he was where he belongs. And that's ultimately what we as parents and as a district want, a place for every student to belong, to grow, to thrive. MLK is the place where my middle school student feels seen. MLK Middle School is the place where my student has started developing grit. MLK Middle School is the place where my student is known. The district website states their focused outcome is to be a place where every student is known. The plan to phase out MLK Middle School fails to support that vision. Students like mine need access to advanced classes that are only available due to the unique pooling of resources at MLK Middle and High Schools. Because MLK Middle School and High School share a campus, they are able to share resources without students leaving the safety of the building. My student will have completed 2 full years of Mandarin Chinese by the end of 8th grade. When he signed up for that, I urged him not to because it would be hard. He said it would be challenging. And that's the difference that a middle school like MLK makes for students like mine. He was able to take Mandarin in 7th grade because the high school has a Mandarin teacher. Phasing out 7th and 8th grade from MLK will reduce 40% of academic magnet spots for future middle schoolers. There is a demand and need for more academic magnet seats. That's why MLK Middle and MEGS consistently have wait lists. Without the additional expense of rebranding, MLK already has the infrastructure and space to add 6th grade. MLK Middle School is ranked in the top 10 middle schools in Tennessee. Eliminating a successful middle school that has a wait list should not happen. Why not build upon the success of MLK by adding 6th grade? In that way, MLK has a traditional middle school set up as well as a high school. There are other district schools where both middle and high schools share a campus. Stratford STEM Magnet is one, and East Middle and High is another. Please re-examine the decision to phase out 7th and 8th grade and consider the addition of 6th grade to MLK. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lauren Herring, and we ask you to speak on the topic you signed up for.
Hi, my name is Lauren Herring. Dr. Battle, members of the board, it's very interesting that Dr. Battle's not here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live in District 2 and have children who attend MLK and Head. I am here tonight because I'm opposed to the plan to eliminate 7th and 8th grade from MLK, which was created without any input from the MLK community. Although it has been almost 3 months since the plan was announced, there have not been any public forums for stakeholders to share feedback as promised. My daughter spent 2 years at her zoned middle school before she moved to MLK. My husband and I gave her zoned middle school every bit of our support by enrolling her in extracurriculars, serving on the PTA board. We desperately wanted for her to find her place there and thrive. Unfortunately, it became apparent early on that her academic needs would not be met at her zoned school. For example, my daughter was actually punished at school because her MAP score did not show significant growth by the end of her 5th grade year. Never mind that her score at the beginning of the 5th grade year put her at an 11th grade level. Her teacher repeatedly assured me that it's very hard to show growth at that point. When I inquired about the punishment she received, I was informed that the rest of the class needed an incentive to take the test seriously. In other words, this teacher's entire approach was geared toward students who needed motivation, not those who needed rigorous and robust educational experiences. When I met with administration about this issue and other needs outlined in my daughter's gifted IEP that had not been met, the assistant principal actually told me that, and I quote, "Maybe this school is not the best fit for your daughter." As insensitive and possibly illegal as that statement is, Dr. Johnson was correct. The best thing that could have happened to my daughter was her acceptance to MLK for 7th grade. I share this example not to brag on my own child, but to highlight the need for advanced academic offerings for middle school students. If she had stayed at our zone middle school, my daughter may never have fallen in love with the German language or been challenged to excel in high school level math and science as an 8th grader. She would not go to her friends' orchestra concerts or art shows or bonded with her advisory teacher and group. It is baffling to me that Dr. Battle would consider taking away these opportunities from students instead of adding 6th grade to MLK. Academic magnet schools are meant to reach students who desire to go faster, further, and deeper into topics in a way that cannot be covered when teachers must teach to the middle 50% of the class. There is clearly a demand for middle school magnet seats, as seen by the consistent waitlist for MLK and MEGS. Many parents and students want rigor and high standards, and the district should continue to offer this at MLK for middle school students. These options are indeed available to middle schoolers in neighboring districts, and families make the choice to go after them every day. Please re-examine this decision, invite community feedback, and consider the addition of 6th grade to MLK. Thank you for your time.
Lauren Caldwell.
My name is Lauren Cardwell, and I live in District 3. I am a teacher and the mother of 4 children, an 11th grader and a 9th grader at MLK, a 7th grader who was number 44 on the waitlist for MLK last year and number 68 on the waitlist for MEGS last year, and a 3rd grader who will be subject to the proposed policy changes. My husband, an MLK alumnus, has taught in MNPS since 2005. MLK is one of our city's treasures, and we should seek to share this gym with more of Nashville's citizens rather than decreasing access to it. Through the vision, dedication, and diligence of previous school boards, superintendents, administrators, faculty, staff, parents, and families, our community has created a majority-minority school in a historically Black neighborhood in the urban core with a decades-long history of academic achievement and extracurricular excellence. It is not only foolish to risk squandering such a gym, but it is also negligent. Moreover, I have concerns about equity within our school system's academic magnet offerings. The present plan involves keeping Rose Park and Head as pathway schools for MLK. However, neither Rose Park nor Head have academic requirements for entrance, while MLK's middle school does. Meanwhile, our city's majority white academic magnet high school, Hume Fogg, would keep MEGS, a school with academic entrance requirements, as its pathway feeder school. The discrepancy in the proposed models seems inequitable. Given the fact that MLK's high school is currently under-enrolled, while both the district's academic magnet middle schools consistently have long wait lists for every grade, it makes more sense to meet the demands of Nashville's families by adding 6th grade to MLK than to eliminate academic magnet seats for middle schoolers. The school's facility has the space to accommodate a 6th grade class of 125 students while maintaining enrollment in the 7th through 12th grades. This plan would also ensure that MLK continues to maintain the diversity of advanced courses offered in all grades. Many MLK teachers provide instruction to both middle and high school students. The fact that the middle school classes are at capacity enables these teachers to offer specialized courses at the high school level. If the district eliminated the 7th and 8th grades at MLK, not only would the school lose its amazing team of middle school teachers who specialize in preparing students for the academic rigors of MLK High School, but it would also lose educators who teach in both the middle and high school. This would decrease the diversity of advanced courses taught at MLK, which is a significant contributor to its historic success. The district's values and the citizens' values are aligned. We all want equitable access to quality education for all of our city's children. I hope the district will receive feedback from the MLK community in a spirit of collaboration so that we might work together to preserve our academic magnet offerings where the demand is, which is at the middle school level.
Lottie Caldwell.
Hello. My name is Julian Hillier, and I live in.
Sir, Lottie Caldwell is before you on the screen. So you can go after her.
No, so Jessica Hillier is my wife. She had to step out for a second to pick up my daughter, so I'm speaking on her behalf.
You can't do that. Lottie Caldwell's in line before. Oh, okay, sorry.
You have her now?
My list, she says not up there. Oh, my list. Oh, I have a different list. So who's up next? Lottie Caldwell. Lottie Caldwell's up next. I know, it's on my list.
My name is Lottie Cardwell, and I live in District 3. I'm choosing to speak today because I'm opposed to the plan to eliminate 7th and 8th grade from MLK, which was created without input from the MLK community. As a junior at MLK, I have experienced firsthand the value of a 7th through 12th grade academic magnet public school. The breadth of grades at MLK creates connections and opportunities that enhance my experience as an MLK high school student. When I entered MLK in 9th grade, I was able to choose between 5 different foreign language options. No other public or private high school in the state of Tennessee offers this many options for foreign languages, which enhances students' understanding of other cultures and traditions while bolstering reading proficiency and ACT scores. The opportunity I had to choose between so many different languages, or even take multiple at once if I could work it into my schedule, excited me. I understand that if this plan moves forward, MLK will likely lose some of its foreign languages, including Latin, the language I am currently taking at the AP level. Since I had taken 2 years of high school Latin prior to my entrance to MLK, there were only 2 public schools I could attend where I could further my Latin education, MLK and Hume Fogg. Latin is an important subject to me and one I've considered studying in college, yet I did not have the ability to go to a private school that offered Latin. So I greatly appreciate how MLK has made this language accessible for me at a public school. However, opportunities for middle school students are also at risk. I'm on the women's soccer team at MLK, and in our off-season training, we allow middle schoolers to come join us so they can experience the rigor of a high school soccer program. Moreover, the middle school girls team shows up to watch some of our games, and we show up to watch some of theirs. This interaction between programs has eradicated the age-based hierarchy that plagues many school sports programs. Moreover, it has allowed friendships between middle schoolers and high schoolers to form. This year, I met a 7th grader, who has asked not to be named, during a middle school-high school joint soccer workout. We immediately bonded over music taste and our devotion to academics. I helped her understand some new soccer drills, and she made me laugh and cheered me up. She doesn't have an older sister, so she regularly texts and calls me asking for advice on everything from choosing classes to balancing workload to dealing with middle school drama. Our friendship is very valuable to me, yet we would not have had the opportunity to connect if MLK was not a 7th through 12th grade school. Please re-examine your decision to eradicate MLK's middle school. Invite community feedback, and consider the addition of a 6th grade to MLK. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jessica Hillier. Are you speaking on behalf of Jessica Hillier?
Yeah, I'm her husband.
We can't do that per our policy. The person who signs up is the person who speaks. We don't allow anyone to speak on behalf of a person that's not here.
It's our joint statement. It's our family.
I understand, but we have it under Jessica Hillier, and that's how we have it.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to email the board your joint statement, but she has to be here.
Okay, so who do I email that, please?
All of us go on the website and
Okay.
under Board of Directors, and then Board of Education, and then our emails are on that page.
All right, got it.
All right. Erica Rucker. Bobby McDonald.
All right, good evening, and thank you for your time and service to the youth of Nashville. And thanks for allowing me to share my perspective. So I'm Bobby McDonald. My wife and I have 2 daughters, and our family, what we share is that we really want to have, a diverse student body, make sure our kids can go to a diverse school, and then actually have a diverse faculty as well. And we think that's important. And so much so that we opted to not have our daughter attend Percy Priest, which is where we're zoned, but opted into Waverly Belmont. And that's been a great experience, absolutely amazing. We also had to make the hard choice for our 8th grader, though, to attend a private school. So now the choice for our Waverly Belmont 4th grader has become even harder this year. Families of high-achieving 4th grade students can have a big decision to make. You can either continue through 5th grade and hope to win a lottery seat at an academic magnet middle school, such as MLK, or if it is an option, you have to decide to apply to private school during 4th grade, because that is when most private schools in Davidson County have their entry year. So eliminating middle school grades at MLK further compounds our dilemma because it takes away the high test score middle school spots in diverse schools. Having fewer enrollment spots means it will be more difficult to obtain one. So it was a hard choice that our family has to make, and we simply could not afford to wait to see if we would get a spot at a potential spot of the future MLK and head magnet school. So we opted to apply for a position at a local and well-known private school for a 5th grade year. I want to encourage the board just to find ways to add more academically focused middle school seats, and that will give a high quality of education for students in a diverse environment. It should not be the case that we've actually had to choose private school as a way to gain a high level academic achievement and also diversity in our daughter's education. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Carlos Cordova.
My name is Carlos Cordova, and I live in District 8. I have 2 children enrolling in an MNPS elementary school. I am choosing to speak today because I am opposed to the plan to eliminate 7th and 8th grade from MLK, which was created without input from the MLK community. Although it has been almost 3 months since the plan was announced, there have not been any public forums scheduled for the stakeholders to share feedback as promised. In the Tennessean article that was published yesterday, I learned that this is the 5th time in 20 years that MNPS has looked at eliminating middle school from MLK. All 5 times there has been public opposition to the proposal. Yet this time is different in that community feedback has not been welcome and opposition to the plan has been ignored. The previous 4 proposals were made when MLK's building was filled to capacity and there was significant demand for enrollment in 7th through 9th grade that the building was unable to accommodate. This time around, the MLK building is only at 80% capacity. The high school has been under-enrolled for years, and the waiting list remains long for the middle school. Instead of eliminating 7th and 8th grade, the only grade levels at MLK with demand, MLK could easily add 125 6th grade students in the 25-26 school year and increase academic magnet middle school opportunities. I believe that a major impediment to increasing high school enrollment at academic magnet schools is that the district does not notify parents about their child's qualification to attend academic magnets. The public education system in Nashville is difficult to navigate. So in order to ensure equity in access, the district should be notifying families in their home language. About the various school options, school choice is important. However, by eliminating over 40% of the academic middle magnet seats, the only academic middle option left for families will be MEGs. I recognize that academic magnets are not the best fit for every child, but please let parents make that decision based on the knowledge of their own children. For some families, many of whom have spoken tonight, having an academic magnet opportunity in middle school has made all the difference. I would like for my children that are here present to have this opportunity at MLK as well. Equity shouldn't be about removing what other people have. It should be about giving others more opportunities for access. Please re-examine this decision, invite community feedback, and consider the addition of 6th grade to MLK. Thank you.
Thank you. Trey Madison.
My name is Trey Madison, and I am a senior at MLK this year and serve as the student body president. I've been at MLK since the seventh grade, and this community has helped shape who I am. If I'd been forced to wait until ninth grade to come to MLK, I'm not sure where I'd be today or if I'd even still be here today. I won't waste your time on the academic statistics I'm sure you all already know, like how MLK is the top middle school in the state, has had a waiting list for admission since its creation, or how MLK today already is 300 seats under capacity, how no grade level excluding the 7th and 8th grade has had a waiting list for a minimum of 8 years, or how we currently have 9 empty classrooms. What I will talk about is what makes MLK itself so special. It's a place where 7th graders can have senior mentors who guide them through their first year at the school. A place where people learn not how different we are, but how similar we are to each other and how there is nothing to be gained from hate or judgment. I see a lot of talk in the news about how diverse Nashville is. Well, MLK is just about as representative of Nashville as you can get. We have students from every corner of the city, every background you could think of. Wealthy, middle class, low income, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, and countless other races and ethnicities. We know that the way our school is structured is different from the rest of MNPS, but I have never known our Board of Education or our city to get rid of something just because it's different. Uniformity for uniformity's sake is pointless. What we should be doing is taking notes and seeing how well this environment has fostered not only academic overperformance, but social development, overall satisfaction, record low bullying rates, and a truly united community. To take that from us now is to say that our voices don't matter when it really counts. This decision isn't making every student known. It's telling us that it doesn't matter whether we're known or not because the decisions have already been made. This puts MLK on a dangerous path that may not be actualized today, tomorrow, or next month, but could very well lead to it being an under-enrolled, underfunded, and underperforming school that no parent is going to drive 45 minutes across town to send their kid to. We have a problem, but the solution is not to take away 300 more students. The funding that MLK Middle provides to MLK helps keep not just middle school teacher positions, but high school positions, language offerings, AP courses, and more. We quite literally cannot afford to lose our middle school students. MLK was founded as a 7th, 8th, and 9th grade school, and we cannot now say we're going to cast aside 2 of those grades. Not a single MLK parent was consulted, and yet this plan is moving forward. Not a single MLK student was consulted, and yet this plan is moving forward. Not a single MLK teacher was consulted, and yet this plan is moving forward. We're better than this, and my only request is that the members of this board be willing to work with us and try to find a compromise. Thank you.
Amy Powell.
I'm Amy Powell. I live in District 4. A lot of what I was going to say has actually already been said better than I could say it. So I do want to tell a story. I'm actually mentoring an MLK senior who, as she's applying for colleges and thinking about nursing programs, because I'm a registered nurse. She lives in your district. She is a will be a first-generation college student. Her parents are undocumented. She lives with her single, undocumented mother. She's, like I said, a student at MLK, has been there, I think, since 9th grade. Came from a charter school, so brought money back into the district, which is great. So she works 36 hours a week. Walking to the local big box store close to her house. She does not drive, does not have a car. Plus, she takes multiple AP classes at MLK. She is well prepared. Does so many different extracurricular activities. I'm so proud of her. And her life is so challenging, but she loves MLK. She works hard. I'm just saying that MLK is not just, like there's this perception that MLK and Hume Fogg is just like, the place where white wealthy parents try to send their kids to avoid behavior problems or other problems at other schools. It is really a lifeline for students like her. And there are so many students at MLK who are like her. Now, my own child is a sophomore at MLK. She started there in 9th grade after a pretty rough middle school experience, not blaming any school. It was COVID. It's middle school, so it's horrible. But, and with COVID, it was just awful. But so she came in 9th grade, not having been taught by, she didn't have any of the middle school teachers. But Stephanie Ellis, who is on the list for tenure tonight, I think, she's been one of so many middle school teachers, the middle school administrator, who have just really helped save my child's life after a really rough middle school experience. And I'm so grateful for that. That MLK is just it's a place where since Dan Mills, she went to Dan Mills, which was wonderful. She hasn't been as thrilled to go to school since elementary school. And like high school's rough, but she loves it. And I just hope that you reconsider this, because I'm afraid that parents will just leave the district. And then we also won't provide students like the senior that I'm mentoring those options for, I feel like she would have gotten lost in another school. And now she's ready to go to college. So thank you.
Thank you. Autumn Audrey.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is Autumn Embry, and I live in Hope Gardens in School District 5. I'm choosing to speak today because I'm opposed to the plan to eliminate 7th and 8th grade from MLK. I have 4 daughters, a 6th grader at Head Magnet, a 4th and a 1st grader at an MNPS elementary school, and a 4-year-old, and another child on the way. My oldest daughter recently received news of her acceptance into MLK for 7th grade, and she was ecstatic. She has been wanting to attend MLK for middle school and has worked hard to do so. Her 5th grade experience at Head was not enjoyable. Some of the students in most of her classes were disruptive and really hindered the learning environment, and she would complain about classes most days. Her 6th grade year has been better due to her honors classes in English and math, but her other non-honors classes still experience behavioral issues from some of the students. And also, I'm not sure she's being challenged enough throughout all of her classes. This is why we need to keep more academic seats in middle school. There is clearly a need. I've heard countless testimonies from current MLK families and alumni about how the middle school at MLK prepares the students for the academic rigor of MLK High School and ultimately the college level. I've also heard that the environment and overall experience at MLK is unique and special to our city. Why are we wanting to take that away? It pains me that my younger children might not have the same opportunity of attending MLK in middle school as their older sister will, and that their only academic option for middle school might be Meigs. Why should Meigs be the only academic middle school option in Davidson County? As a stakeholder, I would really like an explanation of the decision process to take away academic seats, to know why this is happening. I am aware that Dr. Battle, the Reimagine team, and the Board of Education have received many communications from community members in opposition to this plan. On the MNPS school board page, it states, "The school board represents the public's voice in public education, providing oversight for what the public schools need and what the community wants. Do the voices and concerns of the community not matter? And if they do matter, at what point in the process will our concerns and input be heard and considered?" I ask that the school board be accountable to their responsibilities and host community meetings to discuss these issues. Please do not take away middle school at MLK. If anything, please add 6th grade to MLK. Please re-examine this decision, invite community feedback, and consider the addition of 6th grade to MLK. Please consider the voices and concerns of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Carlene Taylor.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Carlene Taylor, a 7th grade science teacher at MLK, and I've been teaching for 25 years, which is probably impressive because I know I only look about 29 years old. I would like to speak today because I am concerned about the district's proposal to remove the 7th and 8th grade from MLK with no plan to add any new middle school academic magnet options. Why academic middle schools work? Students that come through our school doors have high academic abilities. They can process large quantities of information really, really quickly. We are able to meet their hunger need at MLK because these students get the opportunity to engage with other students with high academic abilities, which extends their learning. We teach them the MLK way. Challenging students that are academically advanced can have the potential to engage them in their learning. Challenging students that are academically advanced can teach them that they must earn their grade by studying and working up to expectations. Challenging students that are academically advanced can teach them how to be successful in an academically advanced high school. Why does MLK matter? MLK is the number one middle school in Davidson County, and we're in the top 5 in the state. That's according to U.S. News. MLK is one of the most diverse schools in the district. MLK has a unique culture because students start at 7th grade. I know my students. I'm with them for 5 years, and they come visit all the time. I have developed relationships with them and their families. Currently, the middle school has a waiting list, but the high school is under-enrolled. Removing the middle school would add more seats to the high school. However, the high school is already under capacity, 300 seats, and we have 9 empty classrooms. Questions I would like answered. Have you considered how removing the 7th and 8th grade affects the high school? Have you thought about adding 6th grade to MLK instead of removing the 7th, 8th grade? Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Sophia Payne.
Good evening, Dr. Adrian Battle, Chair Elrod, and members of the board. My name is Sophia Payne, and I'm a senior at Hillsborough High School. I'm here on behalf of Sunrise Hillsborough, which is a part of the larger national Sunrise movement. By a show of hands, how many people in this room like to breathe clean air? Okay, so not everybody apparently. That's surprising. Well, I like to breathe clean air. Clean air helps to maintain good health by supporting our immune systems and reducing the amount of contaminants we're inhaling into our bodies every day. When I was looking through the agenda for this school board meeting, I noticed that the contracts with Ferguson U.S. Holdings, SM Lawrence Company, Inc., and Williamson's Mechanical LLC all allocate funding for HVAC supplies, HVAC improvements, or HVAC upgrades. It is unclear as to whether these contracts incorporate sustainability principles or not, but I wanted to use this opportunity to share the importance of considering sustainability for HVAC updates from a health perspective. To elaborate, when HVAC systems are not updated with sustainability in mind, students and staff at MNPS and other schools can be exposed to more particulate matter, and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and methylene chloride. These contaminants have been tied to respiratory and cardiovascular disease, reproductive and developmental disorders, suppressed immune systems, and cancer, among other adverse health effects. In addition, the CDC recently released a guide to ventilation in buildings, and in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, reported that airborne viral particles spread between people more readily indoors than outdoors. Considering that Americans spend around 90% of their lives indoors and that MNPS students remain inside school buildings for at least 7 hours a day, which is at least 29.2% of their entire day, the MNPS school board should prioritize ensuring that school buildings provide clean air for students and staff every day. Specifically, the MNPS school district should aim for higher standards in MNPS school buildings within 3 key areas: more widespread use of natural heating and cooling techniques, more frequent installation and reliance on heat pumps, and improved indoor ventilation. These strategies would improve student and staff well-being while also reducing MNPS's school building strain on the local ecosystem. Therefore, I implore you to please contemplate the health of us, the children, and how maintaining safe and clean buildings with sustainability principles at the forefront of your minds will support our immune systems so we can last long, fulfilling lives. Thus, I ask for your support in making our schools more clean and safe for all students and staff by providing your input. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Simrat Desbrion. If I mispronounce your name, please correct me.
Hello,
Hello, we are Scarlett Rawls and Simrat Debrisian. We are current 8th graders who attended HEAD for 5th and 6th grade, and we started MLK in 7th grade. We know many of our fellow classmates have emailed Dr. Battle and the board members about our concern for the removal of the middle school at MLK. We know the district motto is every student known, and we would like to share more about why attending an academic middle magnet school has been important to us. The purpose of 7th grade at MLK is to prepare students for the rigorous environment of high school here. If the middle school at MLK is eliminated, we know that most incoming 9th graders will struggle and our overall test scores will drop. We understand diversity is a very relevant issue in many schools, but MLK is one of the most diverse schools in the city. We do not have a racial majority among our student body, and our faculty is very diverse as well. Our sister academic magnet schools both have significant racial majorities. If the concern is diversity, we recommend that you focus on changes to other academic magnet schools as opposed to eliminating 7th and 8th grade at the MLK, which was just ranked #1 middle school in Davidson County by U.S. News and World Report. Many of our students live up to an hour away, just to come to MLK because it is known for better opportunities. Many parents are willing to send their children to HEAD, even though it's often hard for students to get proper education due to constant fighting and disruptions. Most of the times, just for their futures at MLK as an easy pathway to 7th grade here. We feel that MLK should expand to include 6th grade such that students can access the opportunities at MLK at a younger age. Our building has the space to add 6th grade, and we know that there is a demand for 6th grade academic magnet seats. Teachers, students, and parents are furious, and we will not go down in silence. Thank you.
That will conclude club participation. Thank you. That will conclude public participation. We will now move on to governance issue. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and it's properly second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. 5-0. It passes. Now we'll move on to board reports and actually also prepare for your announcements. Or committee reports, sorry for the.
Prior to the board meeting today, we had a meeting of the evaluation committee. And so if folks are interested in watching the discussion of the semi-annual evaluation of the director, that is will be available on the YouTube channel that has all of the MNPS board meetings. So we reviewed a semi-annual review for this. So we have 4 quarterly reports that the board receives from Dr. Battle. The board then offers feedback. We highlight various initiatives that we'd like to have additional information on and have an exchange in an evaluation committee meeting of that information. There is also a PowerPoint that's available that goes over all of the detail of both the director's report to board members and board member highlights, as well as places that the board is going to continue to progress monitor. So we will do, so that was the semi-annual review for quarter 1 and 2. We will do the same feedback for quarters 3 and 4. We will have another semi-annual report after quarter 4, and then the final summative report once we also have assessment data from the state, so likely to be late summer, early fall. And that is my report. Anything I should add? Okay.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to board announcements. District 1 doesn't have any, so we'll go to District 4. Okay. Okay, District 6. Okay, sorry, yep, it's just.
Yeah, just a couple of quick announcements. Well, they'll be quick. So this is from Antioch High School. I'm excited to share that 2 students from Antioch High School, Kevin Garrido and Jason Molitor, have been selected for the National Education Equity Lab Honor Society for being among the top performing scholars in the nation in their National Education Equity Lab College and High School, in their high school course with Stanford University. We additionally have 15 students that are enrolled in a dual enrollment course at Georgetown University. So congratulations to those students. And also a really quick shout out to Antioch High School senior Marco Dulce on his acceptance to Vanderbilt University. And shout out to the Antioch High School baseball team who just completed a day of community cleanup in the community, keeping Antioch excellent. Also, March 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. will be the 20th annual Southeast Easter Egg Hunt and Festival that will be held at the Southeast Community Center in Antioch. And finally, just a quick reminder, student school board member applications are open, and they will be open until 5 p.m. on April 30th. So if you are a rising MNPS junior, you can apply to be our next student school board member. And again, those applications are open until April 30th. You can find the application online at mnps.org. Thank you.
All right, District 8. Okay, no further announcements. I do have one major announcement. There will not be a board meeting on March 12th due to spring break, so the next board meeting will not occur. It's canceled. Sorry, next board meeting is March 26th. So the next board meeting will be March 26th. Thank you. Be no further business. This meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.